Hello, everyone, from episode 25. Here's episode 26 of One Step at a Time with Charlie Chen. And this time, I think I don't really have a proper title for this. I guess a proper title would be something like State of Affairs in 2026 or Current Manipulation Tactics or I don't know. But State of Affairs in 2026, I guess. Or manipulation. Yeah, it's just manipulation tactics that's currently in play. So something that I noticed really interesting, especially about Venezuela, is the pattern I've noticed. It goes something like this, right? Do something controversial or without approval, and then afterwards, immediately do another thing now, and then broadcast it. So before all of this, this thing, my friend recently have been talking to me about. Now, this is not his idea, but I was able to build on it some more. The concept is called information hazard, right? Information hazard essentially boils down to information, whether they're true or false, or fabricated, or not, lack of whole truth, so just partial information, are information that would screw you over for knowing it, right? So, for instance, let's say if you ask me, how's the water under the bridge? I can say the water is fine, it's nice and warm, right? But I don't tell you that there are sharks inside, or I don't tell you that there are crocodiles inside, or something like that, right? That would be sort of like a lack of information. Another thing, I don't know why all these examples have to do with water, but bear with me. Another information would be like, let's say you and I are dying, and but our what's it called now? We were told that the water that we need to survive is contaminated and will kill us quicker, right? But little do we know that the water actually is fine and safe for consumption. But because we thought the water was toxic, we ended up not using it, and then we die anyway, right? Um, so so the playbook seems to be this: do something atrocious, present information hazard right away, and then put people in a no-win situation, right? So here are the two things I noticed about the Venezuela thing, right? Now, whether they're true or not is another, but the playbook seems to be like this, at least intuitively from my point of view. So the first thing is this, right? Take Venezuela, then immediately go after Greenland, and going after Greenland is the information hazard. And then after going after Greenland, now from other nations' point of view, namely China and Russia, right? If if America, well, if what America is saying is true that China and Russia is coming after Venezuela, right? Then that's the thing. So you took Venezuela, now you say you're going to take Greenland. That's the information hazard. If China t uh, doesn't take Taiwan, right? You don't necessarily get back Venezuela, right? But if China takes Taiwan, then you're like, see, I knew they were going to take Taiwan by force. We taking Venezuela was the right thing to do, and now it justifies us for taking Greenland, right? So before the party can do anything, we immediately start the second one, right? Another one example would be this, right? Remember how they say that they took Maduro out of Venezuela without congressional approval, right? So then the central message is what I say so counts, right? I can do wherever I want. What I say so counts. So that's the first step, and then the second step, which is the information hazard, is without congressional approval. Now I'm going to do 10% off 10% cap on credit card loans without congressional approval. I do, let me see, what was the thing? Corporations cannot buy single family homes, and defense contractors can't buy back their own stock shares or something, right? So that's the thing. So first, take Venezuela because I said so. Now, here are the benefits that are supposedly beneficial to you without saying so. Now, American people are trapped in this double-edged sword in the sense that, okay, so if you say what he says so, counts, right? Like, then it forgives the action of taking Venezuela without approval because well, whatever he says so counts, right? So you don't necessarily get the benefit. If you get it, great, right? But at least you're on his good side to get the benefit because you said what he says so count, right? But on the other hand, if you stand your ground and you say, no, taking Maduro without congressional approval was wrong, then not only does he not necessarily bring back Maduro to Venezuela, right? Release him or whatever. Now you also get on his bad side and you for sure forfeit the 10% cap on credit card. You forfeit the big business cannot buy single family homes. You also forfeit defense contractors, being profitable or something, right? So, so yeah, the playbook right now seems to be do something before clapback or meaningful reaction or judgment comes. Immediately do something bad. Now people don't know what to do because if they do either or, it validates you one way or another, which allows you to either double down or justify what you did previously, right? So, yeah, that's the current manipulation tactic in place, right? Now, of course, one of the old-time favorite that's in play is something like, the files, right? Just keep keep creating bigger problems than the files so that people never get around to asking about what were in the files. So, yeah, that seems to be the way that we're living in right now. And of course, don't you think it's interesting that just as people are getting fed up, some crazy like mass massacre of protesters in Iran happened and it's televised around the world? It's almost as if they're saying, if you keep protesting, this can be you next, right? And of course, this begs the question because another I was chatting on this video and they were talking about like how all this spending goes to military, but the money was never spent on the people, right? And then my morbid ass were thinking that, oh yeah, you keep talking like that. They're going to spend the money on us in the form of bullets, right? That's the dark side in me. So I don't know. It's a no-win situation that we're placed in for sure. And so, which begs the question, what is justice? What is right? Is the survival of this country slash empire so important that it justifies all the sins? And maybe so. So I don't know. I don't know. It's just we live in an interesting time right now, and what is good, what is right, and what helps you survive are also mixed up and jumbled up right now that it's not a feeling of helplessness. No, it's more like, of course, there are elements of it, but the more feeling that's more than this feeling of helplessness is this decision paralysis because you don't know what is the right thing to do. And that may very well be the goal to begin with. So, yeah, that's the current manipulation tactics in 2026. I know this is a short one, but this one I've been thinking a lot lately, and so I guess in a way it's more thought out than episode 25. But yeah, well, I mean, knowing is half the battle, right? So now that we can notice it, let's see what else they're up to. Because oh, but before I let you guys go, there's this thing. I was chatting with a pastor friend. I think he's a priest. I was chatting with a priest friend of mine about, all the evils that's happening in the world. And shout out to Mr. Daniel Petit. He does a priest in Austin. He pretty much told me this line. Now, it goes something like this. Whether like so it doesn't matter if other people are doing evil or if you are rich and you want more and you're causing evil, or if you're poor and you have to take the richest money to, but in exchange you have to do evil, right? Right. The original question was this. Suppose you have rich people with everything, wanting more, but they don't want to get their hands dirty. And but then you also have poor people who are on the verge of death, and they are told that they have to do evil in order to get this money to survive. Who would go to hell, and who would go to hell more, right? And because at the end of the day, sure, the thought of committing evil or wanting more comes from the top, right? But it's the people who are at the bottom who actually have to get their hands bloody, right? And so then the question becomes who would go to hell more? And I think the answer was something like it makes no difference, sin is sin. And yeah, in a way it is. Now he did say that one could be argued that if you're starving to death, then you have to commit evil to survive, right? But that's a moral debate at a different time. But to my original question, sin is sin. But then he followed up with this banger of a quote, which helped me calm down a bit and feel enlightened a bit. It goes something like this. We always have the choice to suffer the consequences of doing the right thing. And that's it. We always have the choice to suffer the consequences of doing the right thing. And that was just beautiful to me. And it's true. There are so many times I suffer the consequences of doing the right thing. But one thing I don't have is regret, or I don't have much regret. I guess there are some regrets in my life, but I do my best to not have regrets because it's the thing that kills you the most, at least to me anyway. So yeah, thanks for hanging out with me for episode 26. And remember, you always have the choice to suffer the consequences of doing the right thing. So, yeah, see you guys next week. Bye.